2, 1. Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name is Stuart Wright, and today's guest is Alexandre Phillipe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We are here to talk today about your new documentary, Chain Reactions, which is the 50th anniversary celebration stroke exploration of what is arguably one of my favourite films, certainly my favourite horror film, Texas Chain Saw Massacre. You do it in a way that wasn't. I had no when I came to watch the film. I had no background. I'd not seen the trailer. I'd not read anything about it. I went in completely cold. Can you give how do you summarize it as a documentary? Because it's not a typical documentary, I would say.
No, I've been making films about films now for a long time, and I think I'm known for doing stuff that is really atypical. I'm very interested. I don't make behind the scenes documentaries. I think there are other people who do that really well. I'm much more interested in the resonance of films and how certain films continue to ripple throughout our culture and get in our sort of cultural consciousness. How does a film get under our skin? Those are the things that I'm really most interested in. And so to me, it's really about diving into the personal aspects of memory and feeling and trying to understand how different people react in a way to those films that I'm deeply passionate about, which is obviously the case with Texas Chain Saw Massacre. But obviously the experience that Stephen King had is completely different from the experience that Takashi Miike had, which is borderline traumatic, and Patton Oswalt, of course, the comedian. And, to me, it's really a series of encounters. I like to describe it as a Rashomon-like sort of structure, where you're telling the same story multiple times, but each time it's a different perspective. And that's really what this is.
In the UK, obviously, Texas Chain Saw Massacre was one of the poster boys for what was the video nasty scandal that we endured when I was a kid. And I'm pretty sure that had we not had the video nasty sort of thing, I'm not even sure I'd be talking to you today. It sort of canonized films and made me curious as a child as to why is this thing considered to be so scary that we need to ban it.
It's really an extraordinary film. It's extraordinary to me that 51 years later now it continues to resonate. We can talk about the fact that the film, I think, in many ways, is still completely relevant today. It's almost it has just as much to say about America today than it did 50 years ago.
Yeah.
For different reasons. It's just one of those films that has really keeps sort of vibing with the zeitgeist in a really sort of terrifying way. If you want to look at a film about America tearing itself apart, watch the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. I think it's pretty much what's going on today in a very different way, But, it's a film also that, it was made by, practically kids at the time for $60,000. It's an absolute miracle of a picture, obviously banned in multiple territories, obviously maligned and still to this day, but yet that has endured the test of time, that continues to blow people away. I've had the opportunity to watch the film now with, young college students around the world. And, many of them had never seen it before. And it's really something to watch them watching that film and then walking out of the theater completely blown away. These are kids who think they've seen everything. And yet, when they come out of, Texas Chain Saw Massacre, they feel like, oh, wow, I've never, this is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the sort of, it's almost like, to me, it's like pure cinema. One of the comments that was made in 1975 when the BBFC banned it was the main issue they had. There isn't actually a lot of graphic violence for them to delete. It's actually what cinema does to your mind and your imagination while you're watching a movie. You walk out of that film thinking you've seen a lot more than you have. And I've been lucky enough in the past to interview Julia Ducournau when she did Titane and Fabrice de Wells about Alleluia. And it was interesting for me, both of those are schooled in sort of French cinema, where whereas they look envious. They talked almost enviously about this film that Tobe Hooper had created.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the imagery is really powerful. I mean, I think what you're talking about, of course, you know, we have to talk about the psycho shower scene, right? Because it's a classic example of, you know, through editing, your brain connects the dots and imagines or, you know, senses things that you don't really see. You know, the meat hook scene, I think, is a classic example of that.
Yeah,
you know, there's obviously a trick in the cut, you know, that makes you feel that hook, and it doesn't matter how many times you watch that scene, it's still the bluntest scene, I think, in the history of movies. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievably cold. I mean, it's really unbearable, you know, to watch. But I think that's the you know, the brilliance of you know, Tobe and his crew, and Daniel Pearl, of course, you know, the cinematography, and it's a beautiful film. But, you know, the title, the Texas Chain Saw Massacre, sort of also in a way sort of works, you know, it has this strange way of working on your brain. It sort of always hovers over the film. You can't forget as you're watching the film that it's a film that is called the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. And so just that alone is sort of constantly messing with your brain. Yeah. And when it happens, I mean, it delivers fully. Does it deliver in terms of blood? No. But you know, does anybody walk out of this film thinking like, oh, well, that was milder than I thought? No, absolutely not. You know.
And what's amazing about that is the fact that we don't see a chainsaw till about 50 minutes into an 80-minute movie. I mean, it's quite amazing. I mean, I guess in terms of film titles, in that I Spit on Your Grave is about as close as you get to it, where a title and what it delivers sort of equals it, but obviously not lasting as much in the canon. I thought it was interesting reflecting on how I saw the film the first time, which was on a kind of third, fourth, maybe fifth generation pirate copy on VHS because you couldn't see it legally, is Stephen King's comments about it looking amateurish and not being able to see exactly what's going on, but that's actually part of the charm of the film. And seeing it on a degraded VHS didn't lessen the experience of watching the film.
On the contrary, you know, in fact, we did an experiment a couple of months ago at the Melbourne Film Festival, because, you know, one of the chapters in the film with Alex Heller Nicholas, the great horror, you know, specialist and writer, is about the Australian VHS, which was really degraded and really yellow. Well, we decided that we were going to screen the Texas Chain Saw Massacre on that, you know, the actual KTEL Australian VHS on the big screen.
Amazing.
And it was, you know, 350 people were there. It was a packed house. And many people in the house had never actually gotten to experience the Texas Chain Saw Massacre ever. You know, that was their first viewing.
Amazing.
And I got to tell you, I watched it. I was there. There is something about experiencing that film like this that it's dangerous. It feels wrong in a way, like you feel like you're really watching something you're not supposed to be watching.
Yeah.
And it feels real, and it's in many ways much more terrifying, I think, than the beautiful restored 4K UHD. You know, so it's really interesting. You know,
having when you start off a documentary like this, and you've chosen the subjects you're going to include in the film. You must, and obviously you're very familiar with the film Texas Chain Saw Massacre going into it. And sort of while you're going through this exploration, and obviously when you're pulling the film together, you'll have a perception at the start and you'll have some new perceptions at the end. What were some of the significant changes in your perceptions and understandings of Texas Chain Saw Massacre from having made the film that you've made?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's always a process of discovery. I mean, I think I've been doing this long enough now that for me, the real joy is to get to pick the brains of people who are huge cinephiles, who are, you know, filmmakers, who are experts. And, you know, but to me, it's really the joy is that we all watch a film and view a film differently. We all have different theories and different things that we connect with. And so it's really endless. You know, I mean, I could talk about, you know, how Patton sort of really made me look at this film as this kind of microcosm of this apocalypse that's happening around the world. And it's almost like a climate change movie, right? The world is burning and people are going mad as a result of it. And I think that's a really interesting read. I'd never thought of that before, you know, the way that the way that Alexander Nicholas, again, by way of that Kate Ellister in VHS, connects to the Australian outback and the climate catastrophes as well, that were happening in Australia at the time, and the fires and, the bushfires and all that stuff. I mean, that's really, it's then you start, revisiting these sort of classic Australian films like Wake and Fright, like The Proposition, and then you can't see them the same way ever again, because now there's this kind of like connection to the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. It's really, really fascinating. So, of course, to me, that's the great joy, is to be able to just, riff with people like that, and just have fun talking about these movies that we love, and trying to really get to the bottom of why those movies resonate with them. And invariably, it's going to be for a different reason, Absolutely.
I mean, I remember my first sort of muddying of the waters as to what I thought was the first time I read Carolyn Glover's Men, Women and Chainsaws. And obviously, Texas Chain Saw Massacre is a central part of her thesis about male gaze, and certainly the male gaze in horror. So it was interesting then, sort of fast forward into now and listening to Karen Kusama say, to her, it shows some of the saddest, scariest depictions of masculinity that might exist on film. Now, that wasn't how we were talking about it in the early 90s. And like now it's sort of, her bringing her sort of 21st century female gaze to the movie. She's seeing something else that it was a real revelation for me, that, and I can see it. There's no two ways about it, but I just never noticed it before.
No, absolutely. And then by the same token, also, if you really start looking at that family, and the sort of the dysfunction, of that family, and the sadness of that family, but there's also a really interesting dynamic, especially with Leatherface. He and the hitchhiker bring grandpa down the stairs with so much kind of carefulness. I mean, they're really caring. They care about the family. He takes that role of the mother, I guess. When he puts on the bit of a makeup and then that wig, that he wears at the table, he takes that role seriously. And he's a very sad figure. I mean, there's something really sort of touching and tragic, of course, about Leatherface, which is. What I really appreciate about that film is that every character is really fleshed out in a beautiful way. Yeah. And it's not black and white. It's not like you've got the good guys and you've got the bad guys. As it's also said in the film, you can absolutely look at Texas Chainsaw as a home invasion movie from the point of view of Leatherface. And that's absolutely valid.
I mean, I'll submit that was that is one thing. I mean, this is a physical thing in the film. I'd never read that moment that Patton talks about, where he's looking out the window going, where are all these people coming from? I hadn't seen it for that at all, but like now he's pointed it out, it's clear as day that I don't know how I missed it, to be honest with you. Because
it's absolutely there, and so in a way, if as difficult as it is, thankfully, to get into, to step into Leatherface's brain, you understand the logic, you understand what he's going through,
Absolutely. Well, thank you for discussing Chain Reactions with us. It's available on most digital platforms, Apple, Amazon, Google, Sky, and Virgin in the UK, and will be available to buy on Blu-ray from the 27th of October. Now, sir, we shall move swiftly on to 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Yes. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Good man. Right then, just for those that haven't heard this before, Alexandra's given me 3 titles, of which we will go through. We will spend 5 minutes on each. And every time we hear this sound, that is the end of 5 minutes. Can you hear that at your end okay?
Yes.
Good man. Right then, I will start us off at the top for 1958's Vertigo, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and based on the 1954 novel From Among the Dead, with a screenplay by Alec Koppel and Samuel A. Taylor. Fun fact about this movie, which blew me away actually, is it's often blamed for popularizing the misconception of vertigo, meaning the fear of heights, where the proper name is acrophobia. Vertigo is just the sensation of whirling and being out of balance when you're looking down from a great height, according to the dictionary. So tell us, though, Alexander, What is the impact this film has on you, and what memories does it hold?
Oh, it goes real deep. This Vertigo was my first movie memory. I strangely enough so I grew up in Switzerland, in Geneva, and in my living room at the time, we had this wallpaper, this very sort of rich burgundy damask wallpaper that was literally the same as the wallpaper at Ernie's in Vertigo, where Kim Novak makes her first appearance in her black and green satin dress. And so my first movie memory is this sort of like wallpaper on wallpaper, and Kim in her black and green satin dress sort of coming out of that and walking towards me. And I think that memory is burned into my brain. I will never forget it. I think I've fallen in love with that film ever since. I don't think I really understood what the film meant, and certainly, but I've been revisiting it obsessively ever since. And then, of course, now I'm sort of coming full circle, because I just finished and premiered a film about Kim Novak called Kim Novak's Vertigo. Yeah. I've become really, really, good friends with her. And that wallpaper, that sort of very first movie memory, is what sort of brought us together. So it's a really, really cool story in a way. But Vertigo is it's a sublime movie. It's a movie that was a decade ahead of its time. I think it's still a movie that continues to have many, many secrets. Yeah, it's an extremely complex movie. It's a movie that constantly changes its genre, actually, its tone. I keep seeing new things in it. But when you look at sort of Hitchcock at the top of his game, the actors being at the top of their game, obviously the glorious, Technicolor, VistaVision. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Bernard Herrmann also at the top of his game. It doesn't get any better than that for me in terms of movies. I can keep going back to Vertigo over and over and over again and never get tired of it. And it just absolutely destroys me at the end every single time.
And where do you first see it? How does it come to your attention?
Well, that was when I was a kid. When I watched it. I mean, that was my first memory of it.
So it's just on TV. You're just
yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, my parents were big cinephiles. Okay, and so I was actually exposed to a lot of Hitchcock as a kid. Yeah, especially through my dad, and but yeah, I mean, it's just one of those films. I feel like in a way, it's been with me my entire life. It's a really strange thing. It's never really left me.
I remember somebody describing Hitchcock as sort of a man who could see his film, like, if he's on set in the editing room, walking through the lot, talking about it, he can always hold a vision. And I can't remember if it's apocryphal or not, but he was on one film set and he just kept waving his hand across the lens. So when the rushes came through, there was this mark on the film of where he's putting his hand, and they said, there was a panic, the rushes are ruined, they're ruined. And they went, oh, no, that's where Hitchcock wants you to edit it.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, can't remember which film it was, but it's just that idea. I mean, and it's that level of precision and control, and yet his films still live and breathe, don't they? The films don't feel mechanic.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think there really is no greater craftsman of movies. I mean, there is a reason why, to this day, I think it's probably safe to say that there's more books about Hitchcock and films about Hitchcock than, any other director in history, really. I mean, but the reason for that is that he, his craft was so precise and so dense and so, I think his movies also really sort of communicate with each other. I think any one of his films is great in and of itself, but becomes greater if you start looking at it in the context of his entire body of work. So if you start really paying attention to the recurring images, the motifs, some of the things that he does over time, throughout the decades, that's when they become really sublime.
Indeed. I was lucky enough to live in East London in Leighton. If we'd have been doing this interview 12 months ago before I moved house, I'd have been within the sort of shadow of where Hitchcock grew up. I shot a short film on Hollow Pond, which is where Hitchcock used to walk his dog, and got the inspiration for the birds.
Oh, man.
And in a bittersweet irony, the guy who I worked with on the film had to, because there is a lot of birds on this pond, and he had to digitally delete all the birds from our film. And
Oh, wow.
So yeah, no, I mean, there's the Alfred Hitchcock Hotel, there's the Birds Pub. It's very much a celebration of its cinematic history. Fast forward to 1982 now for your second choice. We've got Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, adapted, of course, to the big screen from Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. IMDb describes the story as a Blade Runner who must pursue and terminate 4 replicants who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator. It always feels a bit reductive when I read the IMDb ones, and that one in particular. I've just done 2001 with somebody, and that was equally. But a fun fact about the film: Philip K. Dick, when he saw Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard on set, declared, "He has been more Deckard than I imagined. It has been incredible. Deckard exists." So tell us, where does this fit in with your memories of film, and why does that have impact on you?
Oh, big time. I watched it when it was out in theaters in 82. So I was, I was 10 basically, and was in Paris, and completely blew me away in ways that when I got the VHS after that, there was a period of time when I would literally watch that film every single day.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, it's really hard to put into words how much that film moves me. Of course, we have to talk about his scene, which is what's the most extraordinary thing that scene is that the dialogue was improvised by, Rutger Hauer, which is, it's really hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, it sounds like I use the word sublime a lot, but I really do for very, very few movies. I think Vertigo is sublime. I think Blade Runner is sublime. There's one film recently, a few years ago, that I watched called I Lost My Body that I would qualify as sublime. There's very, very few films I would sort of put on that sort of level. But yeah, it's obviously it revolutionized science fiction in so many ways, but there's a visual sort of language that we had never, seen before. I mean, we keep talking about how Star Wars was this kind of new thing in 77, right?
Yeah.
Unlike anything we'd ever seen before. But I don't think we talk enough about how Blade Runner was really unlike anything we'd seen before. But to me, the emotion of that film is really what gets me. I mean, just the way that the emotion of Vertigo is ultimately what gets me. This idea that this, the big baddie, so to speak, you think is this big baddie, and actually turns out to be more human than the humans.
Yeah.
The way that he saves Deckard and then breaks into this monologue with the Vangelis music, which of course is absolutely pitch perfect. This extraordinary shot of the dove just flying up and in slow motion as he dies in the rain. I mean, you can't come up. I still feel that, to this day, I can't think of a greater moment, in the history of movies, something that moves me so deeply, that is so absolutely perfect. It's an absolutely perfect movie.
I think the thing that Blade Runner definitely sort of invented and ruined for screenwriters going forward is that it is the first thing people think of when you're trying to create a world that's a dystopian future. The near dystopian future. It nailed what this idea of a crumbling society that's just functioning.
Yeah, but you can't. But again, it feels like they can only approximate.
Yeah.
And you can never get close to that.
Oh, of course, that's what I'm saying. You can't. People are always seeing Blade Runner, whereas to try and recreate your own is a real difficult job. Is what I mean. What was it? Can I ask you, when you're 10 and you're seeing this film in the cinema? It's not typically 10-year-old fare. I mean, there is some action, but it's not an action film. So what was it that can you remember
distinctly
what arrested you at 10? And when you're talking to your friends, are they going, "Hey, yeah, we agree"?
No, I don't think that I was really talking to my friends, but I was at the age of 12, I had like a cinema club that I was doing at home, but it was really for my parents and their friends. Mm-hmm. So I was more sort of talking to adults about, about movies at the time. I was even watching horror films even before that age. I mean, I was very, very, very young cinephile, as I've said, I don't really remember, a time in my life when films weren't a part of my day to day. It's just my earliest memories are movie memories, 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're a similar vintage, and in 1981, we came back from the video shop to watch a double bill at home of Life of Brian with Cannibal Holocaust. Now, what an 11-year-old kid's doing watching that second film on a rainy Sunday afternoon with his dad, but I did, and it's all. But you watch it with your dad, so it's not irresponsible in the way that it would be to just leave me to my own devices, I think.
No, and there are kids who are just fine. I mean, look, I've been, doing a lot of screenings of Texas Chain Saw, obviously, recently. And every now and then there's a young, 12-year-old who shows up and even girls, and they absolutely love it, and they'll ask you questions about it. And, not everybody has a stomach for horror, but some do. And that's okay.
Indeed. Right then, sir, for your final choice, we're going a little bit off piste. You said Tex Avery Cartoons, which it wasn't, the name didn't resonate with me at all. But then obviously I went and looked, and Tex Avery, 1942 to 1955, directed almost all cartoons for MGM. More or less every cartoon is his, apart from Tom and Jerry in that period, which is some body of work. I mean, Droopy, Wolf and Red, Screwy Squirrel, and Georgia Jr. A couple of his trademarks that he sort of cornered, as it were, was the anvil falling on the head and the characters breaking the fourth wall. So tell me, what is it about Tex Avery that impacted on you and stays long in the memory?
Well, again, in going back to my early days in Switzerland, just getting ready to go to school every day. It was on we were watching French television, and they really timed it really well, because they always had a cartoon right before it was time for me to just go with my mom to go to school. Yeah. So the morning cartoon was a tradition, and of course they had some Looney Tunes, and they had different. They had some Tom and Jerry occasionally, but there was a lot of Tex Avery, and the absurdity, the absolute over-the-top humor, and the way he manages to sort of escalate a simple story into something completely, insane, is something that I've responded to as a kid. I would, then I would, of course, get the VHS tapes, and I would record them and then just watch, hours and hours and hours of Tex Avery. And, that sense of humor is something that I still carry to this day. And I think he was the greatest. I think that even when you look at the sort of this golden age of cartoons, even the Looney Tunes, whatever, every time it's directed by Tex Avery, it's like, as they would say in Spinal Tap, it's at 11,
Yeah.
It's just one notch above. And in fact, very recently, a couple of years ago, I watched this absolutely extraordinary film, Hundreds of Beavers. Which took the festival world by storm, and I think has done really, really well. Yeah. And, of course, when I watch this, I'm like, this is a guy who grew up clearly on Tex Avery cartoons, because the film is just as crazy. And it's literally like it's like a 100-minute Tex Avery cartoon, and it takes this idea and it gets, bigger and bigger and crazier and crazier and crazier, which is a feat to do. But it made me feel like Tex Avery is alive and well today. His spirit is still around. And I think that it would be great, for people to get back to him. Like, I feel like he's not really getting the due, as the great genius of animation that he was.
Okay. So in terms of, do you see its influence anywhere else? I mean, it's a fascinating thing with the Beavers film, because I saw the UK premiere of that, and yeah, I agree. Yeah. It has got that kind of Looney Tunes sort of absurdity. Absolutely. And there's what should I say? There are always these sort of mean-spirited characters, I think sometimes, showing up in Tex Avery, and I mean, the humor is so, man, I feel like it was so ahead of its time as well. I
I feel like it's probably a little too edgy for today. I'm sad to say.
Yeah. Almost like it'd be read like Ren and Stimpy and that kind of thing, which is more.
Oh gosh, that was great too.
So are you watching, when you're watching these as a kid then, this is in French language then, I presume, if you're watching it on French TV?
They were in, they were in French, I'm sure, yeah.
So do you remember any moment where you saw them for the first time as Tex would have made them, as it were, with the American voices?
Yeah. No, I got, of course, there's not a ton of dialogue in Tex Avery cartoons, but in fact, in most of those cartoons at the time. But I did, I got a DVD set, maybe 10 years ago. I mean, I think at least not 20 years ago, I got to watch them, with, in their proper sort of, original English, voice. And it's a different experience, but I love it. Just like I love Columbo equally in the original version or the dubbed French.
Okay.
Oh, it's fantastic. Columbo also is, by the way, plays a big part of my childhood. And Columbo still...
Go on, finish your thought.
Still plays every Saturday on French television as it did when I was a kid. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And every Saturday when I'm here in France, I will watch Columbo with my mom. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
We have to.
Well, look, that brings us to the end of 3 films that have, 2 films and 1 cartoon catalogue.
And a whole series of cartoons.
Yes, that have impacted everything in your adult life. And thank you for sharing some of your thoughts on Texas Chain Saw Massacre and your documentary Chain Reactions, which is available on digital platforms and on Blu-ray from October the 27th. It just gives me to say thank you very much for giving your time on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Do remember to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more movies that impacted your life. And if you want to, I'd love to know what your favourite movies are, what your fondest movie memories are. So please share your favourite movies that impacted your life on Twitter. Look for @LeightonRocks. And you can always leave me a review, 5-star preferably. And in your review, tell us which 3 films impacted your life. Best ones get read out on the podcast.
Hey there, Hugh from Podderation here, and if you like today's show, we think you'll love Thanks for Playing. Join Matt and Lucas every week as they explore the wide breadth of the world of video games, talking about their favourites, talking about new releases, talking about old classics, talking about everything that makes video games some of our favourite hobbies out there. If you'd like to learn more, check out our website at podderation.com.